Sometimes the biggest shifts in our lives don't happen because we read the right book, or watch the right video, or attend the right seminar. Sometimes they begin with a simple conversation, a conversation that lingers in your mind long after it's over. One that quietly changes the way you see your own life. That happened to me recently. I was having dinner with a group of people, and during a conversation, someone mentioned how much they loved working from home. She smiled and said something like, "I really enjoy working from home because it gives me time to keep the house clean." I smiled because I understood exactly what she meant. I work from home 4 days a week myself. I only go into the office 1 day each week, so I know how tempting it is. Your lunch breaks comes and suddenly you're loading the dishwasher, switching the laundry, vacuuming the living room, cleaning the bathroom, straining the kitchen. You tell yourself you're being productive, and in many ways, you are. But then I shared something that had been on my mind for a while. I said, I've actually started looking at work from home a little differently. She looked at me curious, and I said, I think working from home can become a trap. Not because working from home is bad, I actually enjoy it. The trap is what we begin doing with the little pockets of time we've been given. Because somewhere along the way, I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't using my breaks to restore myself. I was using them to become more efficient at maintaining my life. And that realization stopped me. Welcome back to Mindset, Momentum, and Intention. If you're here, welcome. This channel is about growth, not rush growth, not performative growth, real growth. The kind that begins with a single shift in perspective. Today isn't a part of a series, it's simply a reflection. A thought that has stayed with me ever since that conversation. Because I have a feeling I'm not the only one who's been living this way. So today, I'd like to invite you into that reflection. Not to tell you how to live, but to ask a question that might change how you see your own day. When I first started working from home, I felt like I had been given a gift. No commute 4 days a week, more flexibility, more freedom, more time. Or at least that's what I believed. Because if you looked at my calendar, it appeared I had gained something incredibly valuable: time. But after a while, I started paying attention to what I was actually doing with that time. My lunch break would arrive, and instead of stepping outside, I'd vacuum. Instead of sitting in the sunshine, I'd fold laundry. Instead of reading a chapter of a book, I'd wipe down the kitchen counters. Instead of stretching, I'd clean another room. Instead of resting, I'd work. Just different work. At first, it felt productive. After all, the house looked great. The floors were clean, the laundry was done, dinner was easier because the kitchen was already organized. Everything looked exactly the way it should, except something didn't feel right. Because by the end of the day, my home looked refreshed, but I didn't. That sentence stayed with me. My home was benefiting from my breaks, but I wasn't. And that's when I started asking myself a question I've never asked before. Who is benefiting from the little moments of my life? Think about that for a moment. When your work day pauses, who receives that time? Is it you? Or does that time immediately belong to something else? The laundry, the dishes, your phone, social media, emails, errands, one more task, one more responsibility, one more thing to cross off the list. We tell ourselves we're making the most of every minute, but are we? Or are we simply making ourselves constantly available to everything except ourselves? I want to be very clear about something. This isn't a video about telling people not to clean their homes. I believe a clean home brings peace. I love walking into an organized space. There's nothing wrong with that, with taking care of your home. The question isn't whether your house deserves your attention. The question is, does it deserve every free moment you have? Because there is a difference between maintaining your environment and neglecting yourself. Somewhere along the way, many of us learn that productivity always looks like movement. If we're sitting quietly, we must be wasting time. If we're reading during lunch, we're being lazy. If we're sitting outside doing nothing, we should probably be doing something. But what if we've misunderstood what a break is actually for? Maybe a break isn't just meant to prepare you for more work. Maybe it's meant to reconnect you with yourself. Maybe those 15 or 30 minutes are not empty space that needs to be filled. Maybe they're sacred spaces, a chance to breathe, to think, to notice the warmth of the sun on your face, to hear the birds instead of notifications, to remember that you are more than your responsibilities. Because here's what I realized. I had become incredibly good at maintaining my life, but I wasn't spending nearly enough time building it. Imagine someone looking at your calendar. They would see meetings, deadlines, appointments, household chores, errands, responsibilities, everything scheduled, everything accounted for. Now ask yourself, would they find even one appointment that simply said, work on become the person you want to be? Not work for your employer, not clean the kitchen, not answer emails, not fold the laundry, just become. Read something that expands your thinking. Write down your dreams. Reflect on your future. Take a walk without your phone. Sit quietly beneath the sky. Would they find that appointment? Because I looked at my own life and I realized I had scheduled time for almost everything except for myself. And that realization changed me. There's something else I've been thinking about. We spend so much of our lives maintaining the things around us that we slowly stop maintaining the person within us. We replace reflection with responsibility, stillness with stimulation, growth with routine. And because it happens gradually, we don't even notice it. One day turns into a week turns into a month turns into a year, and before we know it, we've become experts at keeping life running, but strangers at ourselves. Have you ever noticed that the world celebrates visible productivity? People notice the spotless kitchen, the freshly mowed lawn, the organized closet, the perfectly folded laundry, the inbox that has finally reached zero. Those things are visible. They can be admired. They can even be complimented. But no one sees the 20 minutes you spend reading a book that challenged your thinking. No one applauds the quiet walk you took beneath the sun. No one congratulates you for sitting in silence and reflecting on the life you want to build. No one notices the page you wrote in your journal, or the dream you finally gave yourself permission to imagine. Yet, those invisible moments are often the ones that change a life. The more I reflect on this, the more I realize something. The greatest investments we make in ourselves are rarely visible at first. Reading doesn't look productive. Thinking doesn't look productive. Resting doesn't look productive. Watching the sunrise doesn't look productive. Sitting quietly beneath a tree doesn't look productive. But those moments have a way of changing how we return to everything else. They make us calmer, more creative, more patient, more present, more connected to who we are. And isn't that the person we want showing up to work, to our families, to our friends, to our dreams? I started asking myself a different question during my breaks. Not what can I get done, but what would restore me? Sometimes the answer is stepping outside for 10 minutes and feeling the warmth of the sun. Sometimes it's reading a few pages of a meaningful book. Sometimes it's stretching after sitting at a desk all morning. Sometimes it's simply closing my eyes, breathing deeply, and allowing my mind to become quiet. And sometimes it's doing absolutely nothing, just sitting, listening, thinking, remembering that life doesn't always have to be filled. Sometimes it simply needs to be felt. One of the greatest misconceptions we've accepted is that every empty moment needs to be productive. But maybe not every moment is meant to produce something. Maybe some moments exist simply to restore the person who has been producing all day. Because here's the truth. You cannot pour endlessly into your work, your family, your responsibilities, your dreams, if you never allow yourself to be refilled. Even the strongest river begins with a spring. If the source dries up, eventually, everything downstream does too. And so do we. That conversation at dinner reminded me of something I have forgotten. Working from home gave me something incredibly valuable. Not extra time to clean, extra opportunities to reconnect with myself. The time was always there. I had simply been giving it away. Not because anyone demanded it, but because I never questioned where it was going. Then another thought came to me. One that honestly made me uncomfortable. For 40 hours a week, every week, I help build someone else's vision. And there's nothing wrong with that. Work has purpose, work provides stability, work creates opportunities. But when the workday pauses, even for 15 or 30 minutes, do I spend any of that time building my own future? My own dreams, my own peace, my own health, my own mind, my own purpose? If the answer is always no, then perhaps I'm unintentionally teaching myself that everyone else's priorities deserve my time more than my own. And that's a difficult realization. But sometimes the most uncomfortable truths become the most liberating ones. Please don't misunderstand me. This isn't permission to neglect your responsibilities. It's permission to remember that you are one of your responsibilities. You deserve the same care you give your work, the same attention you give your home, the same consistency you give everyone else. Because at the end of the day, the house isn't the one living your life. You are. So tomorrow, when your break arrives, before you automatically stand up and start another chore, pause. Ask yourself one simple question. What does my future self need from me during this next few minutes? Maybe your future self needs fresh air. Maybe your future self needs silence. Maybe your future self needs movement. Maybe your future self needs a few pages of a book. Maybe your future self simply needs you to look up at the sky instead of down at another task? Whatever the answer is, honor it. Because every time you choose restoration over automatic busyness, you remind yourself that your life is more than a list of responsibilities. It is something to experience, something to nurture, something to build. I'd like to leave you with a challenge. For the next 7 days, protect just one break each day. Not to clean, not to scroll, not to catch up on work, but to reconnect with yourself. Go outside, feel the sun on your face, read 10 pages, stretch, write a journal, sit quietly, or simply breathe without reaching for your phone. Then at the end of the week, ask yourself this question: did I just take a break, or did I begin building a better life? I think you already know the answer. If this conversation resonated with you, I hope you'll continue this journey with me here on Mindset, Momentum, and Intention. This channel isn't about becoming busy, it's about becoming intentional. Together, we're learning that a meaningful life isn't built through dramatic moments. It's built through the quiet choices we make every single day. And if this reflection encouraged you or helped you see your own life from a different perspective, I'll be grateful if you subscribe, share this video with someone who might need to hear it, or support the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. Every act of support helps me continue creating thoughtful content that encourages growth, reflection, and intentional living. Now, before you go, I want to leave you with one final thought. For years, I thought I was taking care of my home. Then I realized I had stopped taking care of the person living inside it. Don't spend your entire life maintaining the place where you live while forgetting to care for the person who lives in it. Protect your peace, believe in your future, move with intention, build momentum, and remember this: mindset shapes you, momentum moves you, intention guides you, because your future is not created someday, it's being created today.